Alright, so my name's Rowan, and this is my first video. I wanted to start doing recordings of my VGC matches, so we're going to start with my practice games for Players Cup 4. Full disclosure, I'm still learning how to use a capture card, so my first video is just going to be a voiceover for one game I just played, but I'll figure out live commentary for the next one. Yeah, let's get into it. I'm playing with my LapDog team. Not super unique, but I've got a few little tricks, and we're going for consistency. So yeah, we're going to look for a match. We got a nice quick 6-0 sweep into Master Ball before this, and we found our opponent. Reginald. Not a bad rank. Okay, so they're also a Zacian team, hyper offense, so I'm pretty sure I go with the slower opener from my team. They have clear speed control with Whimsicott Tailwind. Cinderace outspeeds my Thundurus, and it'll probably OHKO my Zacian, so yeah, we lead with Lapras and Umbreon. So that's a great lead. We definitely do want our Zacian, but we have to keep it in the back. Since if they open with a speed control opener, it'll just be useless. And then finally for the end, I didn't know if I wanted Landorus potentially for Intimidate. They do have, it would be nice against Zacian, Cinderace, and Rillaboom, but then I quickly realized that maybe not so quickly, realized that they have a Defiant and a competitive user, so that's not great. I decided to bring Amoonguss instead. Yeah, so we're gonna lock in. So let's see what they lead with. Do I need a new portrait? Maybe. We can work through that one. Alright, so my opponent leads with Whimsicott and Thundurus. I really just want to max Lapras here and get Resonance onto Whim for super effective damage and get my screens up, but I'm pretty scared of Trick Eject button. I've been burned by that too many times, so I decided to go for a safe play, protect Lapras and yawn into Thundurus, and hopefully force it out. We'll see how they react. Right. They decide to go for a U-turn. It's really weird to see U-turn Thundurus, but it's not great for us in this situation because that's super effective damage into Umbreon, and it takes it since it's pretty tanky, but that's quite a bit of damage. They bring in their Milotic, and their Whimsicott goes for Moonblast into Umbreon, so that's not great. Another super effective attack, but luckily for us, Umbreon is a tank and it eats a super effective double up, and we still get the yawn off into Milotic. So, you know, pretty bad turn for us, but we're still in an okay position. Yeah, we have a pretty straightforward turn too. I'm pretty sure my opponent doesn't want their Milotic going to sleep, so we're going to assume they're going to switch it. And even if they are eject button, I'm not scared of that anymore because they have nothing to hit it with if they switch. So I go for the Resonance into Whim, and I swap Umbreon into Amoonguss for fear of a Moonblast. Amoonguss can tank parry moves easily, and it'll just restore its Sash later with the Generator. As predicted, they swapped Milotic, they bring in their Zacian, and now I know their four are Whim, Thundurus, Milotic, and Zacian. Great, so we max our Lapras. Whim should move before us, so we'll know pretty soon if I got the prediction right. And it did, great. So Moonblast into Amoonguss eats it beautifully. That's well within the range that should be regenerated from a switch out, so we're fine, and Resonance goes into Whimsicott. Awesome, so turn 1 was terrible, turn 2 couldn't have gone better. We now know that Whimsicott is Focus Sash. Could have gotten the screens up turn 1, but I definitely don't regret going for the safe move there. It could have been tragic to just lose my max and my screens immediately. So this turn's a little tricky. I could KO Whimsicott, but it's not really threatening me. So I decided to Geyser into Zacian, and then for Amoonguss, I think it's what's pressuring my opponent. Like, my opponent doesn't have any reason to attack Lapras, it's not doing anything to them, screens are already up. So instead of doing Rage Powder, which is just kind of redundant, I decided I want to Protect instead and just keep my Amoonguss' HP up so I can still restore that Sash later. Alright, we got our Protect off. And they go for taunt on Whimsicott. Right, okay, great. So we avoid that. Right, unfortunately, this is a sub-Zacian. So we're kind of wasting a max turn here with this Geyser. We do set up the rain, which is nice, but we only do 25% damage, and even though Lapras is pretty weak offensively, it breaks the sub, so it would have done more than that otherwise. So they're doing a good job stalling out our remaining max turns. Okay, so this turn I'm trying to decide what to target with my rain boosted Geyser. I'm really tempted to fire it into Zacian again for the KO, but then they'll just sub again and I'll waste another turn, because they know that Lapras will take a Behemoth Blade fine. So Whimsicott isn't threatening me, but I might as well get rid of it to get rid of their speed control. And I'm pretty sure I'm not going to give them a free switch in with Tailwind up because they're scared of Amoonguss. So I swap Amoonguss for Umbreon. Umbreon's immune to Prankster Taunt, and then we can get Baby Doll Eyes off on Zacian next turn. So it seems like the play. Let's do our swap out and see how it goes. Taunt into Umbreon. Beautiful. Okay, so we get that prediction right. Zacian puts up another sub, which also predicted. It's a little annoying, but they're half health now, and they have no chance to put up a Tailwind for the rest of the game. Great. Get a little bit of leftovers recovery. Probably doesn't matter. Umbreon is tanky, but Zacian would still take it down from that range, even behind screens. Okay, so they bring out Thundurus, and our max should be ending this turn. Right. So we're up 4-3 with screens, but they still have their max. So I'd say we're at a pretty even position at this point. We're kind of in an awkward spot now. They probably want to max their Thundurus rather than the Milotic that they have in the back, and they could KO either of my mons depending on who they target. So I think now is the time for a Perish Song. We can force out their half-health Zacian that's hiding behind a sub. You never want to swap out something behind a sub, but they'd have to. And we also should go for Baby Doll Eyes, like I mentioned earlier. So even if they double into Lapras or manage to crit Lapras or whatever, we get this priority move off that will lower Zacian's attack back to neutral, which should be great because they're behind the sub, so like I said, they don't want to switch. We don't want to do it to Thundurus because that would proc Defiant and just push them up one, and we don't want to, even though a Yawn would be very nice into Thundurus, we're much slower than it, so we don't want to risk just dying while doing something. Alright, so they do max Thundurus though, so that's big. But they protect Zacian. Okay. So we don't get the Baby Doll Eyes off. That's a little frustrating, but it's fine because it means they're not attacking with Zacian, so that's not terrible. Right, and because Thundurus had U-turn, they get max Flutterby, which kills my Umbreon, and it also puts a special attack drop on the Lapras. So Lapras is pretty much useless offensively now, but the good news is it takes no damage, and it gets Perish Song off on their very first turn of max. So this is great, because they only have one Mon in the back, so they can't just wait till the last turn of Perish Song to double switch. They are going to have to switch one turn ahead, which, you know, that just action economy, it gives us more turns to attack. So now we gotta choose who to stall out the rest of their max with, and Amoonguss would tank hits through Protect, but my Zacian also has Sub and Protect, so it can tank 2 hits. Now that does involve gambling on my Zacian being faster than theirs. I don't want to take a Behemoth Blade before I get my sub up, and maybe not even get the sub up if I have less than 25% afterwards. But my Zacian's a bit unusual in that it has max speed Jolly when most sub-Zacians run slow and multi-spreads, so I feel reasonably comfortable taking that risk. So speaking of risks for this turn, I'm thinking that my Lapras doesn't put any pressure on my opponent since it's at -1 and already fired off Perish Song, so there's no reason to keep it in. So I swap it for Amoonguss and hope it'll put in great pressure with its Satchel stored. And I use Sub on Zacian, like I said, because I'm pretty sure I'm faster, and that seems to pan out. So we either want a speed tie or we genuinely outspeed them. But it would appear that they either called my switch or they actually did fear Lapras. Maybe they didn't want another Perish Song after the switch. I think they called my switch personally. Yeah, especially since they do an Airstream. a Lightning probably would have been the safer option to just KO Lapras if they wanted it gone. So they call my switch, good on them. Not a great turn for us. But the good news is we get Lapras back in with no special attack drops. Zacian has a full health sub, and we're finally getting closer to forcing them out with Perish Song. They should be down to 2, I think it just said. So great, it's their last turn of max. I definitely want to protect Lapras since I'm down to my last 2 mons and I can't do much damage with it. I'm feeling bold with Zacian since it has a sub up and I want to attack, but if I recall, this is the biggest mistake I make this game. I could protect, or I could Behemoth Blade into Thunderous and do huge damage, and for some reason I choose to attack Zacian's sub for a mon that's about to have to switch out next turn, so that's not great. Luckily for us, yeah, they use their Behemoth Blade into Lapras's Protect, so we still get to have our sub fully intact to tank the hit from Thunderous, which is Steel Spike. This is the weirdest Thunderous. But the sub holds through Aurora Veil. I don't think it would have held through a +1 Behemoth Blade, so that's great. And like I said, we're gonna waste this Behemoth Blade, so not ideal. But that's going to put us in what I think is an okay position. We could have had Thunderous at well under 50% right now, but I think I've got them pinned with the last turn of Perish Song. Like I said before, they only have 1 mon in the back, so they probably want to preserve their restricted one. So I'm thinking they've got to switch out Zacian and lose Thunderous after this turn. Yeah, if I'm going with this prediction, I'm going to freeze dry into Thunderous, since I think Zacian is the one switching. And I check what's in the back, but just to remember, I've already seen it's a Milotic, so Behemoth Blade isn't the move into Zacian, even though it would do more damage to a Zacian. The right play is Sacred Sword, and that's what we choose for this one. Yeah, so we go ahead and see how it goes. Also check Aurora Veil turns. It doesn't really matter because Lapras protected last turn, so it pretty much has to attack, but I just wanted to make sure that it was safe to attack, rather than maybe going for a double. So we do get the Zacian switch out right. Unfortunately, I'm not so smart and forget that Thunderous has U-turn, which it showed me in the very first turn as well as through Flutterby, so I really should have seen this one coming and predicted that. They managed to dodge both of my Perish Song kills this turn, so the correct play would have been to Behemoth Blade into Zacian's slot and freeze dry into... Sorry, Behemoth Blade into Thunderous' slot, which becomes Zacian, and freeze dry into Zacian's slot, which becomes Milotic. We still get the great +1 Sacred Sword, 3 damage into Milotic, but Lapras is quite weak offensively and Zacian is a beast, so it tanks the freeze dry. But the good news is we pretty much won at this point. I'm fairly sure we outspeed their Zacian, so now that speed has been reset from that airstream, so we should be guaranteed a kill at this range. And my sub will protect me from blind hypnosis from Milotic, which is pretty much the only thing I would fear at this point. We have to let Milotic have a turn since Lapras is slow, but we should also be able to kill it. Right, and they double protect, and this is smart because I only have 1 more turn of Aurora Veil up, so that's probably their only chance to do more damage, but that would depend on their Zacian being faster, and it would appear that isn't the case. So we're just going to do the same exact thing this turn. Absolute worst case is they swap Zacian for Thunderous, which tanks the hit, and then they get a blind hypnosis onto Lapras, but at that point they can't even protect Thunderous since they confirmed 3 non-electric moves, so I'm pretty sure it's AV, and yeah, we'd be in a great position. So we got our Behemoth Blade off into Zacian, easy kill. Milotic should go before Lapras though, so we're about to see what it does. It opts for Scald. Okay, so Scald, suddenly into the sub. We don't have Veil up anymore, and we took that Steel Spike damage, so yeah, that kills our sub. But now Lapras gets a freeze dry, even with its bad special attack. It's super effective. They're out of range, they die. So great. This should be pretty much wrapped up at this point. All they have left is a full health Thunderous in the back, and we should outspeed it. We probably just went with a double up, but I want to practice playing safe when I'm ahead, and I'm not sure how much non-Life Orb Lapras freeze dry does into an AV Thunderous. I assume it's AV. So just in case they get a Hail Mary crit, we go with Hail Mary crit onto Zacian. I'm not even sure that would kill with Wild Charge, but we go for a sub just in case. With that, we'll either do a bit of chip and they break the sub, or kill them next turn, but they just forfeit. This was a good game. I made some bad calls, but I think the only one I actually regret is not going for the Behemoth Blade into Thunderous on its last max turn. Maybe should have protected Lapras instead of the Amoonguss switch, but I don't really regret that one because it probably would have paid off big with sleep turns or at Rage Powders or pretty much anything at that point if we got it in safely, and Zacian would have tanked the hits with sub easily. Anyway, I hope you liked the video. I'm planning on making more with actual live commentary and probably do 2 or 3 battles instead of just the one for future videos, but we'll see how it goes.